should be like driving through LA by night in like a 90s war crime movie.
Oh, now we're on the original stream. So confused.
Let's do both. Do it live.
Yeah. It's probably just All right, welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show. We've got 8 games to talk about, so we're going to go through this relatively quickly. I'm Jake Hari, joined by my Monday partner in crime, Terry McBride. Team B, what's up, man? How was your weekend?
Pretty good, bud. Spent a lot of time flipping digital basketball moments and watched some outdoor hockey and a couple basketball games. Did a lot of work over the weekend in my new role. It was productive and a ton of sports watching and not much else because not much else is going on in my life these days. How about you?
It appears I am muted to the audience. I don't know if they can hear me right now, but I'm just reading the YouTube chat. That amazing intro that I just did is all for nothing. But
I wonder if they can hear me, guys. Can you hear me out there?
Yeah, YouTube chat, help us out here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let us know if you can hear Terry. It doesn't look like you can hear any. Turn it up. They're saying now, so it might be. Are we just a little low?
Yeah, we're just a little low, I think.
Working on it, guys. We had a little YouTube snafu going in. They threw us off, so production's catching up. So what'd you do over the weekend? I mean, let's fill a little time. Maybe they can hear us. Maybe they can't.
Yeah, maybe they can. Maybe they can't. Just same type of thing as you. Got into some top shots last night, so made some money on that. Looks like we're good to go. I also watched a lot of hockey. Did you catch any outdoor games?
I did. I love the outdoor games. I'm such a big fan. Do you like them?
Oh yeah, I mean, it looks amazing. But like, did you see the issue with the ice on the Saturday game?
Yeah, you would think like with everything going on this year with unpredictable, COVID cancellations and all this craziness, you would think the one thing they could plan for is the goddamn sun.
You would think, but
the one thing always there, every day, infallible. But yeah, it
was only like 30 degrees, like some nice bright sun, no cloud cover. So I don't know what they think was gonna happen, right? And but it was cool to see the game get in. I think it looked sweet at night as well, and like the game last night with the sunset happening in between periods, like
with the shadows coming down around the boards and stuff. It's just so cool.
Yeah, I'm sure like the players probably don't love it just because it's hard for the goalies to see and whatever. But it looks great for the people watching on TV. I actually went to an outdoor game, the Minnesota game they had a few years ago. They were supposed to have one on New Year's Day this year, obviously got canceled. But yeah, it was super fun. It was in the TCF Bank Stadium where the Gophers play. So it was cool. It was really, really cold. It was probably like 10 degrees out there and not sunny. So it was kind of brutal to sit out there, but the gameplay was cool.
Yeah.
Man. So
yeah, it's just cool. It throw back to, I don't want to say how the game's supposed to be played. It's not to take away from, in arenas or anything, but it's just, I don't know, the nature of it and just being outdoors like that is just so cool, being out in the elements and the cold having a real factor and, things like the sun and the shadows and all. It's just makes it really cool. Throwback to like pond hockey days.
Big fan of that. So I hope they do more of that kind of thing. No matter how many people complain, like the hockey purists or whatever. I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun for DFS. And that's what we're all trying to do is make some money playing some DFS and some betting. I'm sure a lot of people are betting as well. And of course, top shots. That's like the talk of everything on Twitter everywhere these days. So before we get into the games, just want to mention off the top, first of all, like and subscribe to the channel. You guys know the deal on that. Really helps us out, helps us continue to offer good free content. Well, I think it's good. And so
of course it's good.
You guys, a lot of you guys think it's good. 50,000 plus of you think it's good enough to subscribe. You'll know when we go live for not just this show, but PGA. We've got MMA, obviously NFL when that's going on, NBA, best in the business there. I don't think it's very close. And then we've also got a promo code going on for in anticipation of March Madness. So the promo code is college. And what that is, we're just celebrating that we have a college basketball package. So with the promo code college, you get $4.98 for your first week of college basketball DFS with Awesemo Plus. This offer is valid through this Sunday, the 28th. So go check that out. If you want to get in on some college basketball projections, we've got you covered there at under $5. So not so bad. I actually made a good amount of money playing college basketball DFS a few years ago, having no idea what I was doing, just using some of the tools on the site. So I don't know. I'm sure Terry's going to be jumping into that as well. Maybe some betting. Do you bet on that at all?
I'll be more probably on the DFS side of things. And then I get into tournament time. I'll have a bunch of different brackets and all that stuff with college basketball. That's the extent of my college basketball. There's only so much space in this head, so I just can't get all the college basketball stuff in there. So yeah. I'll be on it, but not to that extent. That's where I rely on the site too. Same way.
Yeah, absolutely. So use that promo code college. You got 6 more days to take advantage of that, but no reason to wait. All right, let's get into the games. We've got Calgary and Toronto to start us off. 2.9 implied total for the Flames, 3.6 for the Leafs. Markstrom and Freddie Anderson are your expected goalies. Couple bits of news here on the Flames side. Sean Monahan is again a game time decision. He has been 2 games in a row prior to this. He is once again tonight. I have no clue if he's going to play. I don't really know what the lines are going to be. So this being a 7 Eastern game, you will have some sort of clarity before lock, which is nice. I don't know if the Flames are going to be a heavy target, but depending on what they do with their lines, I think they might be a team I target. I really like the Backlund, Tkachuk, Mangiapane trio. But outside of that, hard for me to say where I'm going to be on them. And then on the Toronto side, they're missing Joe Thornton. Last Thursday, I think it was. Last Thursday's hero. Zach Hyman and Jake Muzzin. So that's a huge blow to their blue line. Not like the greatest DFS defenseman, Muzzin, but he is a very good defensive defenseman. So big blow to a Leafs team that has some issues on the defensive end already. With all that being said, we've got some popularity coming in on Toronto 1. I don't know what their lines are going to look like. Matthews Marner probably going to be together. Tavares Nylander probably going to be together. But outside of that, this one has a lot of moving pieces. So where are you at here, Terry?
Yeah, I was on the original lines from this morning in my notes, and then I was switching them up a little bit before the show based on some of the news that came out and what they've got up on Daily Faceoff now. So what I've got for the top line in Calgary is Tkachuk, Lindholm, and Mangiapane, and then Monahan, Center, and Gaudreau and Livio if he goes, with Backlund dropping down to the third with Lucic and Dubé. Every one of those lines could be somewhat in play. But I think the focus would probably have to be on the top line, just for you get some power play correlation if those 3 guys are skating together. And I think it's 3 talented players who should all see, pretty significant amount of ice time. And then there's something to say about about Monahan coming back into that spot in between Gaudreau and Livio. So I think you can do a few different things with that team. Going off the notes that I had, if we've got the original first line, they had skated 383-34 together over the last year and change. 54-53 Corsi for with 27 goals scored, 17 against, and a 93-61 high danger advantage with an 11-8 conversion rate. So really like what they were doing. And then you get Lindholm and Gaudreau skating together just as a pair, 607 minutes over the last 2 years. 51.34 Corsi for percentage, 26 tied at 26 goals for and against, 100 to 103 high danger chances, 13 to 14 high danger goals. So they yield a few more chances and give up a few more goals, but there's just a lot of action with that line, a lot of back and forth, and a lot of crazy chances. So I like the action that both of those groups could get you. Yeah,
I think I want pieces of this game. You kind of just have to wait until pregame skate. The Leafs didn't skate. It could be Boyd up on the top line. Kerfoot may stick with the second line. You could see VC or Mikheyev move up in some capacity as well. I kicked Boyd out of there. So, Matthews Marner, like Matthews just scores every game. So like, feel free, get your goal, get your multiple point game out of Matthews for 9K. Some would argue he's underpriced there. I don't know that you could say the same about Marner, 8,100, but good duo nonetheless. The one good thing I will say about Toronto maybe missing out some guys is if it's forcing them to stack up their top power play with Tavares and Nylander, now getting PP1 spots with Morgan Riley running the point. So it is a huge total for the Leafs. I believe it's the highest total on the slate. So I'm scrolling through the lineup builder here. Yeah, highest total on the entire slate by quite a bit. So if you wanted to go with the Leafs onslaught, Markstrom's had some struggles recently. He is otherwise a very good goalie. Not someone I usually look to attack, but if you wanted to get exposure to the 3.6 implied total here for the Maple Leafs, a power play stack of some sort might be the best way to go. And it might be the best way to go because you won't have to scramble with your lineups as much around lock time. So a couple reasons to go to the Leafs PP. I really want to see what the Flames do with their lines and make sure to get those right, as you always would like to. But Monahan's going to shake some things up if he ends up playing here. So, like I said, Backlund, if he's with Tkachuk and Mangiapane, I like that line. But outside of that, hard to discuss the Flames or the Leafs really at this point.
Yeah, they're just both too many moving parts right now, but I like that call around just loading up on that power play, maybe just dominant offense, dominant unit on the power play over there. So top power play in the league, 37.5% conversion rate on the power play, pretty damn good.
Yes, they are. Let's go to Dallas and Florida. 2.9 implied total for the Stars. 2.8 for the Stars, 2.9 for the Panthers. Hudobin and Chris Driedger are your goalies. No real changes on the Panthers' top six. Vetrano with Brett Connolly on the third line. On the Stars lines, let's see, Pavelski with Caro and Kiviranta. Faxo with Jamie Benn and Ty Dellandrea. And Hintz, Robertson, and Gurianov on the quote-unquote third line. I would probably consider that the second line, but I didn't actually see this before I jumped on here. The Stars aren't a team that I'm targeting too much tonight, but is there any line for Dallas that catches your eye?
Now, honestly, when I started looking into these lines, there's really not much sample of these guys skating together. So you get on that top line, you can get Dellandrea and Faxley together as a duo, 57 minutes together. Under sub-average Corsi for percentage of 48.94, 2-to-1 goals advantage. On the second line, or the nominal second line, Kiviranta and Pavelski have skated 67 minutes together. Solid 64.35% Corsi for percentage, 2 goals scored, none given up. But there's just not a lot of history to go on here. So if you wanted to play some of the salary and ownership game, there are some cheap guys skating on these lines. You could definitely go to pretty much anything you want in terms of stacking them. It's just I don't know how well they're going to play together. And you don't have, gargantuan scoring just on the board with this team right now in general. They are, bear with me, they are 24th in the league with 40 goals for. They've only played 12 games, so that's a little bit misleading. They're second in the league with 32 goals allowed in those 12 games. So there's just, I don't know, they haven't put up a lot of scoring. They don't have a lot of history. There's just not a lot to lean on DFS-wise. So nothing really jumped out at me. And then the power play looks like it's spread out across the top 3 lines. So it's difficult to grab power play correlation.
Yeah. I mean, the Stars look like kind of a mess to me. Maybe in the past I would look to target against this Florida team, or if there was a line I felt really good about. I think my favorite line on the Stars is probably the Hintz, Robertson, Gurianov, and mostly just Hintz and Gurianov as a 2-man there, 10-5 for those 2 guys on DK. And then on the Panthers side, I like what I'm seeing in terms of ownership on these Panthers. Barkov, Verhaeghe, and Duclair. That's been one of my favorite lines to play. People are leaving off Verhaeghe to some extent. They're leaving off Duclair. I think he was a late ad maybe 2 games ago, and I noticed he was left off quite a few Florida stacks. Florida was huge on Friday night. They had 7 goals. That was against the Red Wings. Dallas, a much stronger team than the Red Wings. But I'm going to be using Barkov with some combo of the you go with the full line stack. You can go with Barkov, Verhaeghe, Duclair. Or another thing I like to do is just replace Wenberg with Barkov. Obviously, the price point is different, but Huberdeau and Hornquist, I think both reasonably priced as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I don't really know how the matchups are going to go in this game. Like, is the Barkov line going to go into Faxa? I would think not, but I guess I don't really know which line they're going to treat as the top line. Barkov usually takes top competition on home ice. So when that's the case on a big slate like this, I just go with what I know, and I know the Florida one's good. I know that Huberdeau and Hornquist can be good, and they're on the top power plays. So Barkov's going to be my anchor, and then I'll have some exposure to both of the top 2 lines for the Panthers. Anything else in this one before we're moving on?
I like that call just about playing Barkov around in between Huberdeau and Hornquist to pick up that power play. 6th overall power play in the league, 30.43 power play conversion. So you get some of their best players skating together, and then you get away from the Verhaeghe and Duclair if you're not looking to play those guys. But I do like how that line comes together up top with those 2 guys on FanDuel, 4,600 and 4,500 on the wings. On DK, 4,600 and 3,800 on the wings. So not very expensive for a reasonably quality top line.
Yeah. I much prefer the Panther side, even though the totals are very, very close here. It's essentially a pick 'em. Gustav Forsling is a guy that I'll have some exposure to at 2,500, just mid-salary defenseman that's probably going to play closer to 20 minutes. Maybe Oleksiak on the other side. He's 3K, cheap enough. He's going to play 20 minutes. A guy that does block some shots as well. Doesn't get any PP time, either of those guys, but got to if you need some cheap guys, there's a couple, or there's one on each side that I'll probably be using.
Cheap Yandel have any appeal to you in the other point on the power play?
Yeah, so I basically just use Yandel in power play stacks.
Yeah.
So I will be using some of Yandel just with my Barkov, Huberdeau, Hornquist type Florida onslaughts. So yeah, good call there. He's not really a guy that shoots that much, so I don't love using him as a one-off. I think I'd rather use Ekblad as a one-off, but he too I probably won't use very often without Florida skaters in my lineups.
Makes sense.
Tampa and Carolina, I think I've got the implied totals flipped here. I think it's Tampa with 3.1 implied total and the Hurricanes 2.9. But
that's what I have.
Yeah, I'll check on that once I hand it over to updated projections, because that's going to flip some things around. Carolina going with Aho, Svechnikov, and Brock McGinn as the top line. Trocheck, Niederreiter, Necas. It's basically sticking to their normal lines. They had a shutout against this same Tampa Bay team a couple nights ago, so why switch anything up? What do you like in this game, Terry?
Well, I mean, we can always start with talking about that dynamic Tampa 1 line. That's, something that obviously jumps out at everybody when you look at this team. But I think the Canes are a good team. This should just be a good game. It's 1st versus 4th in the Central, 4 points separating the 2 teams. Like you mentioned, just shut them out the other day. So I really like I just think it's going to be a quality game. I think it's the 2nd highest total on the board as well. So even though we're getting a pretty decent defensive unit, yeah, this has a 6 total. So it's the 2nd highest total on the board behind that other one. So even though we're getting a decent defensive unit, we could see some goals scored and just see, real quality action. I like the top 2 lines for Tampa, or for Carolina rather. And then we talk about that Tampa 3 line as kind of a sneaky unit that you can get to without too much ownership, without too much exposure in terms of salary or anything. And I think they're on the board in that way again. So I could definitely go back to that unit too.
Yeah, I think a couple lines in play on both sides here. You mentioned this is one of the higher total games of the night. Goals split pretty evenly. I just updated projections, by the way. So if you're using the Awesemo projections, you're probably going to get a little more Tampa, a little less Carolina. But I do like both sides to some extent here. Aho, Svechnikov, whenever they're together at 5-on-5, they're just amazing at driving the play. You could leave off Brock McGinn if you'd like, but he's going to get left off. So potential opportunity there. I mean, he can score some goals when he's got good line mates. So So
yeah,
I'll be leaving him off in some. I'll be keeping him on in some at 4,100. And then the Carolina 2 line. This has been one where I've had to like force my crunches and like lock them in to get to some of them because they've been really strong at 5-on-5. I think they're gonna have a good matchup, probably against this Johnston Killorn and Matthew Joseph line, which isn't very strong defensively. So I think they'll see some of them. They'll probably see some of Tampa 3, which is a little bit of a different story. But I like the top 2 lines for Carolina. I'll probably get to more of the top line. And then I'm a little bit torn on what I want to do with Tampa. I know I want to play Tampa 3. I basically always play some of them. They're always, I think, too cheap. And they're another line that's good at 5-on-5. Tampa 1. I mean, Carolina's a good team. And so on the road, after they just got shut out, like, I don't know that I want to go back to Tampa 1, but their ownership is always so low. Like, it feels like 2 weeks straight they've been in these spots where you look at the top stack tool and they're like a quarter, like their top 2 stack probability is like 3 or 4 times their ownership. Yeah. So that's what keeps drawing me to them. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'll have more than 5% if they're going to be 5% owned. They're going to be like 10 or 15% owned. I'll probably come in below the field. So we'll see where they're at when we get another update on ownership. Any last thoughts here?
And from a DFS perspective, that's the way we want to be making that decision, right? Is just look at that probability of being in your top 2 stacks and just go as a multiple of the ownership that the public is getting to if you've got that weighty a leverage score on Alex's top stacks tool. It makes it really easy to just analyze that quickly. And all right, that's a massively positive leverage situation. Let me make sure I'm at least double, maybe even triple. That line is projected right now on DK for 4.3% ownership as a unit. You can go triple that and only be risking, 13, 14% of your total shares. I really like that idea of just getting to that just based on that leverage. They're an expensive line. That's why they slip down in the ownership. And then just to round off some of the numbers behind some of the things you said, Aho and Svinchov, I can never say his name. Svechnikov, thank you. Pair of the 2 of them as a duo, 433.55 together, 56.97% Corsi 4 percentage, like you said, just dominant puck possession, 29 to 21 goals for, 101 to 94 high danger chances, and converted 20 and only gave up 14 of them. So excellent pairing. And then on the second line, 163-12 together, and 56-69 Corsi 4, 7 to 2 goals for advantage. So very, very good units up top on the Carolina side of things, the top 2.
Yeah, that's why I always feel kind of dumb and I know it's like hindsight because Tampa got shut out the other night, but I'm like, why did I play so much Tampa going up against a good possession, like puck possession team in Carolina? I guess their goaltending isn't very good these days. Mrazek has been hot and cold. And like we know, Reimer isn't a great goalie, but it's hard to score when you don't have the puck that often. And not like Tampa can't drive the play against really any team defending Stanley Cup champs. They're amazing. Even without Kucherov this season, we've seen them go off a number of times. But at these prices, I'm still a little bit wary of Tampa 1. Maybe that's just my recency bias because of what happened the other night. But I'll have some. It's really going to depend on ownership with them because I don't really believe in the spot that much, if that makes sense. But the numbers are telling me otherwise using the stuff on the site.
Makes sense. But with that in mind, so sometimes we talk about targeting a goaltender where we think he's going to get peppered with shots. This wouldn't be the spot to go after like a Reimer just based on that. We're not expecting them to have the puck or be shooting quite as much as they normally would on the Tampa side of things. So maybe you don't like try and be sneaky about your goaltender there and go against the high-end team.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially because Tampa's power play is so good as well. 7,500 for Reimer. I wouldn't just cross him off, but not a guy that we expect to see too much volume, I don't think, here. So that's where you're seeing the pretty low projection, just 10.8 points on DK for him. Yeah. But yeah, let's any defenseman I was going to ask you.
Oh, I just clicked away from it. Dougie Hamilton obviously is on that blue line. Why won't this load back now?
Hamilton PP1 6,700, Hedman 7K on the other side. So you're going to really have to spend up for some of these blue liners. One guy that I like a little bit is Brady Shea, 3,200. He's another one that you can mix in there as a guy that'll probably see 20 minutes top 4 defenseman type of thing, but he's not great.
Yeah. Would you go with any Sergachev in conjunction with your Tampa 3?
Yeah, Sergachev up to 5K. I wouldn't like, he would be the defenseman I would go if I was trying to correlate with Tampa 3, but I don't pay attention too much to power play 2 correlation, especially on a team like Tampa that stacks up their top unit. All right, let's go to, I think this is one of the more interesting games of the night. The Sabres and the Islanders, 2.4 implied total for Buffalo, 3 for the Islanders. Linus Ullmark and Semyon Varlamov are your expected goalies. Good news, I think, for DFSers. The Islanders, going back to their normal top line that had been broken up for the last few games of Anders Lee, Matthew Barzal, and Jordan Eberle. Brock Nelson centering Bailey and Beauvillier. I think that's the correct top 6 for the Islanders.
That's what I've got.
And they're, oh yeah. So I just meant like, I think that's the best suited.
Oh, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's more fun for us. So maybe I'm just being selfish, but I absolutely love Islanders 1. I don't think I'm saying anything too outrageous there. They're getting owned as one of the higher owned lines of the night. And you've also got a good Islanders 2 line, I think. Nelson, Beauvillier, and Bailey. You get full power play correlation on that second unit. The Islanders, they don't really play their lines a ton at 5-on-5. They like to spread it around. They like to spread the power play around. So that would be a team I'd be okay stacking up their second power play unit. What do you think about these Islanders tonight? Too chalky for you, or think you might get to some?
I think at those ownership rates, I mean, they're going to be popular, but I think they're justifying it, especially that top line. Like you mentioned, we've got just a giant sample, 640 minutes over the last year and change, 54.68% Corsi for percentage, 26 to 29 goals for versus goals against, but generated 173 high danger chances to 119. So that's a pretty dominant advantage in that in terms of generating high danger chances, and converted on 16 while yielding 12. So very, very good in the high danger situations, and very good with the puck possession and significant experience playing together. So I think we can go to them and not really sweat the ownership. We're not paying through the nose for them either. So I think that, you can click them together with some difference making other units that are, at 17 free. They don't compare really with the very top, the Colorado one at 20,000, the Tampa one at 20,600, or the Toronto one at 20,300. You're getting a good savings there. So you can put them next to another very good line and kind of get a leg up on the field, I think, rather than going with one of those top end lines that cost so much and then going down to a supreme value kind of line and hoping for the best. So I really like them as a building block today.
Yeah, they're going to be a staple of my lineups, kind of at all stakes. I think Islanders 1 might be even more popular at higher stakes. But, people are going to play Matthews tonight. People are going to play the Blues. People are going to play McKinnon, I'm sure, as well. So maybe it's not going to be that popular, but this is just one of those spots where the price is like almost too good, I think, for the Islanders 1. They have full power play correlation. They're insanely good at 5-on-5, and they have a good 5-on-5 matchup. So really difficult for me to poke any holes in Islanders 1. I guess if you wanted to go heavier on Islanders 2, they're about a third of the ownership or even less. So as a leverage playoff Islanders 1, I'll definitely get some Islanders 2. I think it's just a great spot for them all around. On the Sabres side, I was getting to some Eichel, Reinhardt, and Olofsson, but I think I'd rather just go with Hall and Stahl 2-man, 3,500 for Eric Stahl. Pretty good price for him. Good price for Taylor Hall at 6,400. I know he hasn't been producing at a super high level this season, but I wish the Sabres would stack up this top line, but it looks like we're not going to get that tonight, at least to start with. So they're a tough team for me to want to play a ton of tonight. Anything on the Sabres side?
Not a lot that really stood out to me. I mean, the top line is fine, I guess, if you want to go that way. And I don't dislike the Stahl and Hall call there. But like you said, Hall out to a slow start, 1 goal, 9 assists on the year, 10 points, 5 of them on the power play. I guess you get that out of them. 36 shots on goal over there. What have they played? 14 games. Not terrible. So you're getting some shot padding out of them, but nothing jumps out Next to last rather in the league in goals for, 33 goals for in their 14 games. Only 42 goals allowed, but again, that's sort of tied to the 14 games played too. So you get a lot of experience together out of that top line. 639 minutes together over the last year and change. 49.32 sub average Corsi for percentage, 29 to 27 goals advantage, but giving up 114 high danger chances and only generated 88 high danger chances, 13 to 20 disadvantaging goals allowed in those situations. So they yield a little bit more than they get. So it's, I don't know, they're a little bit dicey, but they're in play, I guess, going to them. Not, like you said, not going to be anybody there. And then on the Stoll and Hall pairing, there's just going to be nobody there. So you can definitely get to that.
Yeah, man. The Sabres are just a really tilting team to try to figure out. They've been swapping around their lines quite a bit. And so I get there's some appeal to Buffalo 1 because of the full power play correlation, because it's Eichel, because, you would think they would factor into a large share of the goals should Buffalo score 3 or 4 here, but the matchup isn't great. The implied total is very low. I guess, it would just be like an ownership play to be different with this Buffalo 1 line. So it's about as good of things as I could say about them.
Stacking Varlamov against them with your Islander shares?
Yeah, I just wonder if he's going to see the volume for 8,400.
Yeah.
So, difficult price for him. But if you're stacking up either of the top 2 lines, like, you've got some salary to burn if you want to try to lock in that win if one of your stacks goes off. So I'm always okay with stacking a goalie with a stack that I'm playing on the same team. But, there's spots where I'm going to do it more. I'm probably not going to play too much Varlamov for this price. Matt Irwin, I think he's in tonight, 2,500. I'm seeing him on my screen as in. He's a guy who he does have good peripherals. He does block shots, candidate for the block shot bonus, another $2,500 player that I'll probably have some of. Defenseman's tough tonight. There's not that many good options that I'm seeing. Anything else in this game?
No, it's interesting call on Irwin. Not a guy who I had spotted on the board, but I do have him in, so I can confirm that for you at least.
Yeah. He usually plays like 16, 17 minutes, but he is a guy who will block shots. I think this is a good spot to block shots in because the Islanders are probably going to carry play. So yeah, he might end up playing like 14 minutes, but if he gets up closer to 16, 17, 18, I think he could be useful in a winning lineup for 2,500, maybe get you closer to double-digit points here if you can get that block shot bonus on DK.
Yeah, at that salary, that's all he really needs to do for you too. So.
Yeah. All right. We've been talking about ownership quite a bit so far, and I forgot to mention off the top that we do have free premium content, NHL ownership projections. So go check these out. Just go to the Awesemo NHL page or just hover over the NHL tab at the top of the homepage. We've also got NBA ownership projections, bunch of NBA shows coming on in about 27 minutes if you're watching this live. Tip-off show, deeper dive, live before lock. 3 hours of coverage. Plus we had the strategy show this morning, plus the process show. There's just so much NBA content. Terry's doing a bunch of NBA content. You're doing the Saturday game plan for NBA, right? How's that been going?
It's been good. I wanted to do a deep dive into Fantasy Cruncher's late swaptimizer this weekend, and I got frozen out of it, so I couldn't pull it up. So I had to do a little pivot on the fly. But if anybody out there plays NBA, we're going to try and go live during the week this week for a live late swap and do a little quick lesson on late swaptimizer in real time while I'm actually swapping lineups. So stay tuned to the NBA channel for when that happens.
Nice. Yeah, pretty unique content. I don't think you're going to find too many other places. If you want to find some interesting NHL stuff, we've got a new Twitter account, relatively new. It's about a couple months old now, at Awesemo NHL. If you're looking for videos, cool goals, and even more importantly, if you're playing some DFS, some interesting tidbits that go out to that Twitter account. It's just at Awesemo NHL if you want to follow us there. If you want the news as quick as possible, get into our premium Slack chat. Awesemo.com/join is how you sign up for a package there. Any package gets you access to Slack. We've got packages starting at as low as $3.95. And then a couple more things we need to ask you to do. We're almost at 30,000 Twitter followers on our at Awesemo_com. Twitter account, and we're giving away 30 free weekly passes to followers. So if you give us a follow, you are put in the drawing to win one of those. And then, as always, I'm going to put this show up on podcast afterwards. If you could go over there at Awesemo NHL, or it's just Awesemo Nhl Dfs is our channel for NHL. If you go over there and give us a 5-star review, you've got a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, assuming you write us a nice review. Give us 5 stars, write us a nice review. You've got a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Let's get into the back half of these games tonight. We've got the Kings. We've got the Blues, 2.4 implied total for the Kings, 3.1 for the Blues. Quick, Binnington, your expected goalies. We never know for sure with these Kings. They always leave us out to dry when they're starting goalies, but I believe they're priced the same tonight, so they've got that going for us. DK very inconsistent with their goalie pricing, compared like starters compared to backups. So, anyways, that's
keeps on its toes.
Yeah, exactly. Blues. I'll just read off the top 6 lines here. If anybody didn't see them over the weekend, O'Reilly with Perron and Kyrou, Shen with Mike Hoffman, and it was Sanford. The last game, I'm seeing Sammy Blais on that second line. What do you like here, Terry? Are you a Blues guy tonight? I feel like I should be, but I haven't been getting to too much of them in my early crunches.
I ran some crunches earlier when I put together the my notes and everything for the show, and yeah, I wasn't getting a lot of them either. But they do look like they're in play on Awesemo's board, which is definitely intriguing to me. That top line ranks, let's call it 10th or so on the board in terms of potential for success. And they're one of the under-owned lines that we talk about when we look down the leverage tool. They're not a massive favorite to be one of the top 2 lines, but they're definitely in play. They're more interesting than some of these other lines, including some that we talked about from other teams already. So I definitely think they could be in play. And if there's not a ton of people getting to them, that's the kind of line that we like to start building with. They're not overly cheap. They compare kind of with Islanders 1 in terms of price. So as a potential building block, maybe if you're creative enough, that's one that you can start to look to, maybe pair with that Islanders 1. I don't know if we can quite get there, but that's a kind of building block line that, I like to work with when we're not going all the way up to the very top. You're getting a very quality line for not that much money with still a decent probability. Just in terms of the numbers, not a ton skating together as a full 3-man unit, but when they did for that 20 minutes, I guess it was over the weekend, 60.61 Corsi for percentage and 2 to 3 goals for disadvantage. Gave up 3 high danger chances and only had 1. But again, very, very small 21-minute sample in that. So not sure if we're getting much out of that. But yeah, I think there's justifiable reason to go there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely justifiable reasons to go to the Blues. Good total. I think for their total, they might be a little bit overpriced. Like both of the top 2 lines, you get a $2,500 Sammy Blais if you want to go there with Shannon Hoffman. But like you're gonna have to pay a fair price for these Blues. You're not getting them at a value, so maybe that's what's keeping me off them a little bit. And I want to attack the Kings' depth. So I could see myself getting to Shen Hoffman 2-man, or maybe including Sammy Blais in some of those. But the Shen Hoffman line got smoked at 5-on-5 the other night. I can't remember. I want to say it was against the Sharks. We thought it was a pretty good spot, but I could be wrong on that. I know I'm right about the numbers. They got destroyed at 5-on-5. So that game's sticking in my head a little bit. But I would like to attack the Velarde, Kempe, and Jeff Carter line. And certainly the lines below that. Athanasiou on the 3rd line, he's a liability defensively for these Kings. So I'll get to some Sharks. I'll get to some Sharks as well, but I'll get to some Blues since we're talking about this game. They're another team that I think you can power play stack. But again, that gets pretty expensive. You're paying premiums for Krug, definitely paying a premium for Perron, and Shen as well for 6,300. So, we'll get to some, but maybe not as much as I thought I was going to my first run through things. I thought this looked like a great spot, but come off of it just a little bit.
Yeah, the price on that second unit is pretty good. That second line, 15-1 on DK for that full line is not bad at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And they will get the better matchup. So I think I'm more likely to get to some of that second line, Shen Hoffman and Sammy Blay. I wish Sundqvist had reasonable line mates. Maybe Sundqvist, Sanford, 2-man. I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself into something here on the Blues, but they're kind of a team I just hate for DFS. So I even hate them more when they're in good spots and getting some ownership. So they're frustrating for me. Vince Dunn, 4K, probably going to play closer to 20 minutes tonight, whenever that's the case. He is in play. I don't have a whole lot to say on the Kings. Is there anything that sticks out to you there?
Not really. They're just not a team that stands out in very much of anything. 14, they're middle of the pack, 14th in the league with 50 goals for, 15th in the league with 47 allowed, 11th power play. So maybe if you wanted to talk yourself into that top power play, which has correlation at the top line, 770 minutes together, 50.55 Corsi for percentage, 33 to 24 goals for advantage over that time, given up more high danger chances than they've generated, but scored more high danger goals than they've given up. You could argue for it, but I mean, they're not great. They don't jump off the page in terms of Alex's rankings. They are, they're one above that St. Louis unit. So call it 9th. If I called that one 10th, they're inexpensive and they're coming up like flat. They're owned like exactly where they should be. They're priced like exactly where they should be. So they rank out as kind of just fine for me.
Yeah, I think Kings one is fine, but now that I'm thinking of it, I'm seeing Cliffy in the chat. He's saying it's Jeff Carter night. Like, why wouldn't I want to get to some of this LA2 line if they're going to get the line that just got crushed at 5-on-5 in the Shen Hoffman? So
good point.
Yeah, that's not a bad. I mean, they're incredibly cheap. If you wanted to get to an expensive Colorado 1 or Vegas, there's expensive lines that people just aren't going to play tonight, or even Toronto 1. So Blues still missing Parayko. It appears that's a huge hit to them defensively, and they paid the price the other night. So who's to say it can't happen again? Maybe I am with Cliffy on Jeff Carter night. So not too bad, even though that line hasn't been good at 5-on-5. But if they're going up against another bad line, you never know. 2 negatives make it positive.
Yeah, small sample. I've got that line with a 45% Corsi for percentage. So, I mean, it's like you said, not great 5-on-5 in terms of puck possession, but 11-6 total for the line. You can do some special things with that in terms of what you're putting with them and how you're putting your lineup together. Just a couple spots above them on the board, I think it's an interesting comp, is that Minnesota 2, the Zook line. And they come in at 9-8, which, by comparison, they're owned a lot more. So it's interesting from that scenario. But, I mean, the salary savings with those guys, I think it just makes for an interesting decision point and an interesting probably inflection point for the slate on which one of these value lines do you go with if you're starting to think that way.
I mean, if I was making one lineup and I had to choose between those two, it'd be the Kings at a third of the ownership, like that, or what is it, half the ownership right now? Oh yeah,
third. Yeah, full third of the ownership. So yeah, I think that makes sense. You're picking up leverage, you're paying a little bit more, but I think they're cheap enough that you can do basically anything you want with them anyway. I don't think you need that extra almost 2,000 in savings, which is crazy.
Let's go to the Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. 2.6 applied total for the Knights, 2.9 for the Avs. Fleury, Grubauer. This one, a lot of star power on both sides. You've got 2 very good lines on the Golden Knights. You've got McKinnon, Rantanen, maybe Landeskog up with them. I'm seeing right now that's not the case, but that's not to say that they couldn't start the game like that. They played a few minutes at 5-on-5 on the game the other night in Lake Tahoe. Not a lot of ownership going to either side. I think this is definitely a game where I'm going to have pieces that I'm over the field on. What looks appealing to you, Terry?
So we've got the pricey top unit on the Colorado side of things. Obviously, that is one we can always start with. Jumps off the page, but they're getting some ownership on both sites. Lower on DK, you're getting McKinnon comes up like over 10% on FanDuel, so that's a starting point where you're getting into some popularity at a very high price, but you're buying into one of the best lines on the board at all. I like the looks of 2. I think they're definitely in play just in terms of nobody going that way, and they're not prohibitively expensive by any means. The what I've got is Kadri Sad and Donskoy skating together. So I think we can get to that line for a significant discount, a significant savings in terms of ownership and everything. They're not great in terms of puck possession in the small sample that I have, but they've got a 4-1 goal advantage in a 28-minute sample, which is pretty compelling. I think if they could score in bunches like that, there's definitely justification to go to those guys. So, and you get a little second unit power play correlation between Sad and Donskoy on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think line 2 is cheap for the Avs. There's no doubt about that. I'm just a little worried about the 5-on-5 matchup against Vegas. But when you're that cheap, you basically just need to get part of 2 goals to be potential for a winning lineup type stack. So I think I'm more looking at the Vegas side in this one. Like, anytime I can get to McKinnon, Rantanen, that's fine, whether they're with Burakovsky or Landeskog, whatever. You could play Landeskog up there and just go with the onslaught. Like, Colorado 1's amazing. But they didn't see too much time against the Pacioretty Stone line. And so they won the game the other night. I would imagine they do something similar. And that means that the Pacioretty Stone line, which is one of the best in hockey so far this season, gets to go up against non-Colorado 1. And they're at basically no ownership. Stevenson's prices come down a little bit. Stone's prices come down quite a bit. Pacioretty's still priced way up. But the line overall, let's see if I can find them on the top stacks. 17-4. Compared to like a Buffalo 1, compared to an Arizona 1, compared to Calgary 1, which is a little bit cheaper, Islanders 1, their ownership is way less than all those lines. So I will be getting to hopefully, like at least 8 to 10% of them if they're going to be 2 to 3% owned in MME. And then I think I'm going to consider them for the higher entry, lower amount of lineups tournaments. And maybe even mix in Shea Theodore. I just can't imagine like the Knights having this low of a total. 2.6 seems a little disrespectful. I know Colorado has very good defenseman. They just got Girard back the other night. And so they are strong defensively. But if that line's not going to see McKinnon, I think I'm in for some Vegas 1. So can you talk me off that at all?
No, I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. That was one of the lines that I had made a note to be sure that we touched on because, yeah, they stand out on the board. And if you're right and they're not going up against that top line, so much the better. But, I mean, we've got a significant sample of them just being a puck-dominant line, 59.04 Corsi for percentage in 389 minutes skating together since the start of last year, a 33-10 goals for, goals against ratio, 96-42 generating high danger chances, 19 scoring and only 7 given up. They're just a very, very good line. So, yeah, I can load up on that, especially when they're not too expensive and they're not untouched, but they're the next best thing. I mean, they are not getting – they're everybody sub 4% ownership.
Yeah.
That comes together pretty nicely. So, yeah, definitely can load up on that.
Yeah. And Robbie says the 333. Yeah, I'm thinking of playing them at least in one of my 333 lineups. So
I like it.
I just – do what you want with Stevenson. Like if you want to find a cheaper center, this guy doesn't shoot at all. So like the joke has been, Stevenson's the GOAT. It's just like carrying these guys. You could put, I'm pretty sure you could put me between Pacioretty and Stone and we'd be okay as a line. So if you want to leave him off, fantastic. I'm sure you could find a better 4K center if you're hand building. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I think this game is a Vegas 1 game for me. Anything else in this one before we move it on to the final 2 here?
No, I was just looking at Stevenson's shots, and it is funny, just him next to Pacioretty. 63 shots on goal for Pacioretty and 16 for Stevenson for the year.
I mean, but he's doing the right thing. Just pass it to the guys that are good at it, right? Like,
yeah, that's what you want in the pivot. I mean, that's why Ryan Strome was good next to Panarin last year for the Rangers.
Absolutely.
That's all he did.
All right, let's go to the Ducks and the Coyotes. 2.2 implied total for Anaheim, 2.9 for the Yotes. Gibson and Temper, your likely starters here. Trevor Zegras making his debut for the Ducks. I know some people in Slack were excited about that. He's $2,500. Outside of that, I don't see much on the Duck side that I like. Do you see anything on the Coyote side that you like, Terry?
Oh, you threw me a curveball there. On the Coyote side, let's see.
Either side. Just take this game wherever you'd like.
Well, I mean, it was just going to be kind of bad-mouthing the Ducks side of things to start. 33 goals for, last in the league. They've played 18 games, so they're not one of those teams that's suffering from whether they've only scored that many goals because they've played 12 times. This is a team that's played most of their games. 30th power play in the league, 7.5% conversion rate. Ouch. 125 minutes together for the top line. 50% Corsi 4 percentage, trailing in goals scored, trailing in high danger chances. Just not a lot. If you wanted to play Getzlaff and Terry from the third line as a duo, maybe, but there's just, there's nothing to really love about that. That would just be a filler option for me. So yeah, I wouldn't really touch much on that side of things. I guess the Zegras call as a cheap guy to build in there, if you want to get excited about that, sure. On the other side of things, let's see what jumped out here. Decent top line, 147 minutes together and 60.78 Corsi 4 percentage with a 10-4 goal differential, 31-15 high danger chances generated differential. So you can get to that full power play correlation. They're owned though. They're getting on FanDuel at least. They're over 10% owned. DK, it's a lot different. You're paying up a little bit for them by comparison, but they're significantly less owned. So I think maybe the Yotes top line over there is a little bit in play. At least more so than on FanDuel. And they rank out that way on the board. One of the, for the leverage, incorporating the leverage score, one of the more interesting teams from the, maybe second or third tier of that top part of the board.
I'm just an Arizona 1 believer. People, firing off insults about Arizona 1 in the YouTube chat. I get it. Like, we've been on this line for 4 or 5 games now. They haven't really broken out. They've been okay. They get a goal pretty much every game. But you haven't had that huge breakout performance. Clayton says Arizona 1 owes me money. Trust me, I'm right there with you. But this is one of those where, Ben Raza says something I think very smart in high variance DFS sports. It's if you believe in a guy in PGA, he talks about you just kind of got to be on that guy for a number of weeks and hope the variance kind of evens out for you and you get your bink. I think it's kind of the same way with lines that stick together that have really good 5-on-5 numbers. And Arizona 1 does have that. They also have a great matchup. So this is not the spot where I'm getting off of them. They're not being owned close to enough. I don't think, even if they're at 10%, I think I'd still be very in on Arizona 1. So I like it. I think the Ducks are trash. I think they've got a good goalie in that Kemper that you can, maybe you want to play, but he's 8,200. So you're going to need a really efficient performance for Kemper, a shutout for him to probably be the difference in a winning lineup. So yeah, man, Arizona 1, I love them again, but I think everybody already knew that before we started the show. Anything else here?
Anything from the blue line jump out? I mentioned Shaddy, I think every time we talk, because he's just cheap and he plays on that power play unit.
Yeah, that's fine. Just power play 1 quarterback for 4,100. Chikrin 6,100
on a terrible power play.
Right. Yeah. Chikrin 6,100. If you're, he's the guy to go to if you want to format stack Arizona 1. So he is expensive, but he's going to play a ton of minutes. And his shot rates haven't been great recently, but over the past couple of years, they've been pretty good. So I'll be playing some of him as well for 6,100. Let's get to the last game of the night. We got a couple minutes only to talk about this one. We've got the Wild and the Sharks, 3 implied total for Minnesota, 2.6 for the Sharks. It is going to be Kaapo Kähkönen for the Wild and Marty Jones for the Sharks. New lines kind of for the Wild, I think. I can't keep track of them. Eriksson, Greenway, Fiala on the top line. Apparently fully correlated as well on the top power play. But I like the team with the lower implied total. SJ1. I think it's SJ1 night. But they're very, very popular, as is the second line. So I don't know. Is this bad chalk? Is this good chalk? Where are you going with this?
Yeah, that's tricky with that top line being so cheap. They just seem like they're going to naturally build in as a first option for so many people going to those expensive top lines from some of these other teams and then needing to find some value on the board. So I think, it might not be with the very top teams who are extremely high priced over 20, but I think as we get to, some of the 17s in that range, I think this team's going to start clicking together quite a bit. It's a very good line. It's Awesemo's second ranked line overall on the boards. And as you go down, 206 minutes, 58 together over the last 2 years, 56.01 Corsi 4 percentage, 10-6 goals advantage, 44-29, nice solid advantage in generating high danger chances and converted on 5 of them, only yielding 3 goals. So I like their ability to generate some offense. I like their puck control. So definitely can get to them. Fully correlated on the power play, like you mentioned. They're just very owned. So you're gonna have to pick a top line to stack with them that is going to be a little bit different, a little more off the board than some of those other super popular units.
Yeah, and I guess we do have a couple more minutes remaining, so we can close this one out as we need to. I'm just a little surprised on the ownership, specifically for the second line. You only get one guy on the top power play in Hurdle, but the Sharks are very cheap. Minnesota, a pretty good defensive team. They're basically at full strength. I mean, I'm sure I don't know who had COVID on their team, but I'm sure a handful of them did because they had to take a full 2 weeks off. Yeah. And so I don't know. They're not a team I love to attack when the opposing team is chalk. So I'm having trouble reconciling that. I think I will have some. I will have some of San Jose 1, but it's just going to be a matter of, do I have 5% of them, or are they going to be 10% owned and I have like 10, 15% of them in MME? So I might just end up fading San Jose as a team in the higher stake stuff and just play whatever I get in MME. But it's looking like they're going to be very popular, and it's more of a price thing. It's like in MLB when you get the team with the 4.5 implied total, but they're all like 3K hitters on DK. And so this is kind of what this is reminding me of. However, you do have a good line in San Jose 1 with a body of work of being a good 5-on-5 line. The question is just, Minnesota's not a bad defensive team. And I keep forgetting the Wild are favored here by quite a bit. It's only 2.6 implied total for the Sharks. So kind of being pulled in different directions here. I'm at least going to start off with a bunch of San Jose 1, and I might have to end up swapping by time we get to this game, because this is a full hour and a half start. This start time is an hour and a half later than any other game on the slate. So you're going to know where you're at heading into this game. So potential for late swap opportunities. We've got this much ownership expected on the San Jose side. Everything I said does not apply to Brent Burns. I think best defenseman on the night, 6,800. I mean, he's almost 30% owned, but
I was gonna say, and full third of all lineup.
Yeah,
yeah,
I like it. Yeah, however much Burns I can get is great. He might play 30 minutes. Yeah.
Minnesota. The one argument I would make in favor of doing what you're saying to do, just in terms of Minnesota being a good defensive team, a little bit of that looks like it's bolstered by the team save percentage, 91.6 save percentage as a team. The Corsi for percentage for the team is only 47.77, so a little bit light on the puck possession numbers. San Jose only 48.88, so it's kind of rock meeting a hard place in terms of who's going to do that. But I would think that top San Jose unit, given last change and the ability to match up against where they want, probably bodes well for them, just in the ability to control the puck and get what they want offensively. So just throw an argument into that as to why to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm always looking for ways to get off of some of the chalk, and like bad team, but good line. And they're going to be this popular as a dog against a decent defensive team. If these ownerships stick, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to have more than the field on San Jose 1 or 2. If they come down a little bit, I might get closer to that in MME.
Yeah, and it's a lot tougher in an event-based sport than it is in a cumulative sport like basketball, where it's a good chalk is so much easier to roster in those sports because it just adds up and it just makes sense. Where here we're looking for individual events that if they don't happen, you're going down with most of the field.
Yep. Minnesota 1, I think by far the best line to target for them. Eriksson, Greenway, Fiala. I mean, Fiala's a talented offensive player. Eriksson and Greenway, not so much, but they are like Eriksson and Greenway with Foligno were very solid at 5-on-5. Now you add in a good offensive player like Fiala, probably a little worse defensively, or a lot worse defensively, but a lot better offensively is how I'm looking at that line. So I'm okay playing them for their price, their ownership. I think they're a pretty decent swap off San Jose 1. Like if you're close to binking something, you could get there and you're blocked. I think pivoting over to the Minnesota side is at least something to look at for this late game.
Makes sense.
Kalen Addison, 2,500, another min salary guy. There's a handful of them tonight. Defenseman is awful going through this entire slate. Like there are not a lot of good guys in really any price range.
No, yeah, we've seen just garbage up and down, except for Brent Burns. I think he was the only like good defensive name that came out, and Hedman, I think, was also mentioned. So,
Yeah.
yeah, between those two, you can roster them as much as you want and just pair them with any of these other cheap guys. There's so many options to do that way. The Addison or Suter, you're just playing them. If you wanted to go to that Minnesota 2 unit, you get second unit power play correlation with those guys. And then you can roster whatever you want because across the board from, all the entire 4-man unit is just so cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel better about the slate after talking it through. So I appreciate you walking through it with me, Terry. Thanks to Chris for producing. First time today. Great job. I'm watching us on delay. Looks good here, as always. YouTube chat couldn't even tell. So that's a good sign. Thank you to all 200 of you watching right now. Hit us with a like and subscribe as you leave. Then catch us in Slack for late breaking news. We'll be around at Lock Through Lock, updating projections. We'll get another ownership run. And it'll be myself and I believe Josh tomorrow afternoon. So look forward to that. Hopefully we can review some winning lineups. Good luck, everybody.